Hello and welcome to the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show, brought to you by Georgia Showcase Baseball and its owner, Coach Ben Howes. Ben, how we doing?
Doing good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm your host, Kevin Perkins, and today our guest is Pete Sass, recruiting coordinator at Dayton University. Pete, how are we?
Hey, doing well.
All right. I've been looking forward to this one. When I started reading your bio, it kind of overwhelmed me, like how much you've done in a short period of time, Pete. And so I'm really looking forward to this. Pete has an extensive background in travel ball, high school baseball, and college baseball. Today we're going to talk to Pete about all those topics, recruiting from both the player standpoint and a coach's perspective. When development is most likely, and I'm going to ask Pete about the keys to his, I'll call it meteoric rise through the baseball ranks from high school student to D1 in a fairly short period of time. And we're going to do all of that after this.
This is the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show, brought to you by Coach Ben Howes with Kevin Perkins from Surrounded by Sports.
Thank you to our sponsors, which is Arden's Gardens, Atlanta source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods, and Towns Davis and Associates LLC, earning millions, fighting for justice for you, and of course Showcase Apparel. There'll be more on that later. Pete, tell us a little bit of background on yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no doubt. So originally from Decatur, Georgia. That's kind of where my parents still are. Born in Tallahassee, Florida, but then kind of went to Atlanta. Basically from there, went down to University of Barry University in Miami, Florida, and stayed there for about 5 years. And then now I'm up here in Dayton, Ohio. So been a little bit of Florida, Georgia, and Ohio last 25 years or so. So
okay, now you started out. You told me that you got injured your senior year of high school. And you made the decision at that point to go into coaching rather than to try to go into playing at the college level. Is that correct? Do I remember that correctly?
yes, sir. Yep. So I tore my UCL, for the second time, and I had some small schools that I was interested in that I was talking to, and decided that instead of looking at the playing baseball thing, it was more of like an area thing for me, and I knew I wanted to migrate down south, back to Florida, and especially Miami, where there was a ton of baseball roots, and just kind of try to get involved in coaching. I didn't really know exactly how it was going to shake down, but I knew Miami was like a good spot to start.
Right. And then you wind up doing some assistant coaching. Where was that at?
So Doctors Charter High School. It was like a brand new high school, basically a mile from the college campus I was going to.
Right. Next thing you know, you're the head coach.
Yes, sir.
What? How old are you?
19. Yeah.
19. You're the head baseball coach. Right.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you get invited to coach at your college, and then you take a job with a junior college. Is that right?
Yep. I was basically coach at the high school for 2.5 years, and then spent a half a year helping out at Barry, and then ended up coaching a whole year at a JUCO around when I was 21.
And the whole time you're doing that, you're owning and operating a travel ball team.
Yes, sir. Beast mode baseball. It's my baby.
And then eventually that winds up collaborating with the Warhawks in Ohio.
Yep.
And I'm going to guess that connection is how you wind up in Dayton.
Actually, no. So that was not related at all. Funny enough. So I actually was coming up here for a couple summers to help out, and it's 30 minutes from University of Dayton's campus. But the head coach, basically, I got connected with him. Long story short, through a couple guys that came up from the Northeast. A guy that I coached with in travel ball, Todd Fitzgerald, who was the number one, ran the number one high school in the country, Stoneman Douglas, for a few years, and he's still there. But they were, I think, back-to-back national championships. His best friend, one of his friends, Joel Carcados, introduced me to Coach King that was here. Coach King's son plays at Harvard, and he had played a tournament with me. And so I had sent him a couple players, and it was kind of just a relationship that travel ball coaches and trainers and high school guys that we have, connections with college coaches. And he just kind of gave me a call one day. So it was unrelated to the Warhawks, but funny that it was so close,
Right, right. Now, Ben, why did you decide you needed to have Pete on the show?
Well, Kevin, Pete is probably the most interesting man in baseball, especially travel baseball. I mean, Pete came out. He went from 0 to 100. I don't think Pete had to go through the struggles that most travel ball coaches go through. When he first started coaching travel ball, man, he had the best. Well, this is before this organization Beast Mode. Now, Pete originated the Beast Mode, and I think they were probably ranked in the country. His travel ball team, and I mean, he's always recruited well. He's always got the top kids. He's always been top in the country with his travel ball program. I know my son went down there with him to Florida for a stint. I think Jamie was probably 14, and Pete had a 17U team. And through a mutual friend that we both know, Delvin Jordan, Delvin took Jamie down and got a chance to just sit and watch Pete's team play. And when he came home, he's like, "Dad, you should see this team that Pete has." I was like, "Pete, who's Pete?" And he's like, "Well, he's the owner of Beast Mode." And I say, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Man, he's got kids from Florida State, Vanderbilt, Miami that's already committed in the 11th and 12th grade." And I was like, "Okay, cool, man. I'm glad you had a chance to get that experience." And me and Pete's been connected, man, throughout the years. Just now I see why he's where he is now, because of his work ethic, man, and just knowing how to pull kids, and mainly, man, knowing how to keep relationships with kids. Because I'll see him at high school games, I'll see him out, at travel ball games, and he's just connected, and he's just a genuine person. But most of all, man, he stays connected with the kids that he's touched lives with. So that's the reason I wanted to have Pete on the show, and also to hear his story and how he did it.
Right, right. Pete, now we'll dive into that because we're talking about recruiting. He's been hitting on it.
Yep.
Recruiting obviously has something to do with an eye, but it also has to do with relationships and that stuff. Now, your specialty, I believe you told me, is Florida and the Georgia areas, which makes sense with your background.
Yep. First of all, I just want to say, Ben, appreciate those kind words, man. Really, really appreciate that. But yeah, Florida and Georgia. I was born in Florida, raised in Georgia. That's where my family is. So it's actually fun because I get to go back home and kind of use that as a home base. East Cobb's 45 minutes away from their house, and Miami is a quick flight from Atlanta to Cincinnati. So it's just it's a lot of great players down there, and it's where I'm from. So it's where all my connections are.
What are you looking for when you're looking for a recruit to play at Dayton?
Right. So I guess, there's a lot of layers to that. Definitely depending on kind of where we're at. It all depends on what we need. But I would just say in general, man, looking for awesome kids that work hard. Obviously they have to meet the grade requirements, and I think guys that that will fit in for what we're trying to do. Our head coach, he likes home runs, and he likes freaks, as he would say, guys that can do everything. And I get that probably everyone wants that, but there are a lot of kids out there that can do a lot of things, and I think it's just about trying to find them and trying to dig through all the holes and use all your resources. But we just want the best guys, and guys that can do everything.
Right. I want to say I found it interesting when you told me that a kid coming out of high school, you're willing to take him a little bit less refined. But when you go for the junior college kids, or probably a transfer from another college, you are looking for a guy that is absolutely fundamentally sound.
Right. Yeah. So our roster is mostly, probably half JUCO, half high school guys. And we have a couple transfers, but we don't use the portal too much just because, the guys that we would want to get end up going to, bigger schools. So we find that JUCO and high school is where we can make, our money at. And the JUCO guys, they have to have good numbers. They have to be able to hit velocity. So we have to go watch those guys and make sure that they're playing good competition, that they're going to class, that they're more refined everywhere, mentally, physically, in the classroom, on the baseball field. Whereas the high school kids, sometimes you're recruiting these kids and they're 16, 17, and you have to almost, dream a little bit and make a decision on what they're going to be in 2 years. So that's like a job in itself. Whereas these JUCO guys, you could see them 3-4 months before they come on campus. You're going to know what that's going to be. So I'd say definitely being a little more patient with the high school guys, and definitely, sometimes they're a little more raw and they're a little bit less developed, but a lot of times they end up being your best player. And just sometimes it takes time.
Right. Right. Now, about what age do you begin recruiting players or looking into them?
Yeah, so with the new NCAA rules, we can't talk to these guys until I believe August 1st of their junior year. So really doing much else before that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Junior year, basically after that summer for them, getting into the fall, that's a big time to start watching. So you have your events like Jupiter and your junior WWA. But yeah, I mean, really that summer going into your senior year is also like super huge. So like I said, man, right around after your junior year.
Right. And you said the summer going into the junior year, which would mean travel ball.
Yes.
And or camp. So travel
Yep.
ball is very important in that respect. Camps are important as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they're both super important. Obviously, the high school stuff is awesome because they do their thing for, they're at high school August to May, and they're practicing and they're playing games. But we don't get a chance to go out too much to high school stuff just because we're playing and practicing during that time. So the summer and the fall, it's a lot lighter. And that's when I'm able to, go out and see guys. So travel ball, obviously super important to kind of showcase what they got. And camps, I mean, that's the best way, in my opinion, is for guys to train and get in the weight room, and then when they're ready, they show up to a camp and kind of show what they can do. Because all the coaches are here, and I know we commit a lot of guys out of our prospect camps.
Right. Right. Now, another aspect of recruiting, of course, is going in and asking guys you trust about players.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing, to be completely honest, because if you go to these fields at East Cobb or Lake Point or JetBlue, like whatever, you got 100 teams. Sometimes you got 50. Sometimes you got 400 teams. Bouncing around, and if you aren't really connected to a couple of teams or a couple of guys that are sending you players or telling you, hey, you should go watch this guy. It's troubling because it's hard to maneuver. So I would say, that's the first thing I do is I call, a list of guys, or I get text messages from a list of guys, around the summertime saying, hey, you should go watch this guy. I get on the phone with them. I get on the phone with the player, kind of get more information. I want to make sure they have the grades. I want to make sure they go to class. I want to make sure that they have all the things that I want before I even go to the game. That way I'm not wasting my time and I'm not wasting their time, because there's a lot of good players, and everyone, wants to see those guys. But if it's not, a good fit, it doesn't make much sense for me to show up to the field and then figure that stuff out.
Right. Now, Ben, how many times do you get a phone call or a text about a kid?
Well, my program's a little different because we tend to have a lot of the younger teams.
Right.
But what happens is a lot of those kids that I've trained, that have gone through the program, I stay connected with, and also watching college games and and run a lot of these perfect game tournaments on the south side of Atlanta with the older kids. It's been one of those situations to where a coach will call me and ask about a kid, and that's when the radar kind of goes off to, you know, those kids that I've trained, I've coached, that's come through the program, and also those kids that I've watched play. So so I do get some of those phone calls, you know, trying to get a referral for a kid. So it's very important that you stay connected with the Pete to you know, to kind of give him some guidance, because it is tough on a lot of these coaches, because there's so many talented kids out here, and there's so many games playing during the summer that it's hard for them to kind of just go and watch, you know, kids play, unless, you know, they you know, a red flag is, hey, we do need to go see this kid play.
Yep.
So yeah.
Now, you got to tell Pete the truth, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Or
Oh yeah.
Pete don't call back.
Yeah. You have to tell the truth, because, you know, if he comes down here and he sees a kid, I mean, that's time. You know, so it's time and money. So you know, you don't want to waste people's time, because, you know, if they're not going to come back if they don't see what you're bringing to the table. If it doesn't make sense, you know, if a kid's not ready, or a kid's just not mentally strong, those 5 tools, which is hitting, fielding, running, and throwing, you know, those kids don't specialize in something special out of those 5 tools, then it's, you know, it's really a waste of time, you know, trying to call a guy like Pete, tell him to come down here and look at a kid. And you know, with my program, it's so young that, you know, parents get so excited about, you know, their kids getting recruited at 12 and 13 years old. It's like the field's not even big enough for, you know, for someone to, you know, come and look at your kid.
Right.
And you know, so, you know, parents get excited and look at some of these other kids that are getting recruited in high school, and, you know, so yeah, so it's very important, man, to stay in touch, and also to be honest with recruiters.
Okay, I think that's a good place. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about our ads. We're going to show our ads real quick, and then we're going to come right back, and we're going to talk about player development a little bit, and then we're going to talk to Peter a little bit about the way he operates after this. Welcome back. Thank you to our sponsors, Arden's Garden, Atlanta's source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods, and Towns Davis and Associates, LLC, earning millions, fighting for justice for you, and of course, Showcase Apparel. At the end of the show, Showcase Apparel is going to be sending you a little message of why you need to like, subscribe, and comment on these shows if you enjoy them. Or even if you don't enjoy them, we can maybe correct things and make sure you enjoy them next time. All right, Pete, let's talk a little bit about player development. Now, you owned and coached successful travel ball teams, but you kind of told me that that's more of a plug and play environment, not as much a training environment. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. You know, so when I first started Beast Mode, the organization with Corey Rossi, we kind of decided, like, hey, you know, there was only one way to get, you know, the type of players that we were trying to get, because, you know, it was a time where guys already had teams, and especially in Atlanta, you know, those kids are playing for 643 and East Cobb and, you know, these big organizations. So we were like, the only way to do it is to get kids from all over the place that want to fly in and want to drive, you know, distance to play in Atlanta and Florida. So, you know, we got Airbnbs and had the kids living in there, and you know, it was great, but we didn't have time to practice. You know, it was kind of fly in. You know, some guys would even fly in, you know, hours before games and play. And we did a lot of work on the front end. Like, it wasn't like we didn't know these kids. Like, we had talked to their families, we had talked to the kids, we knew everything about them. Like, we were in touch, we communicated, and we talked a lot. But as far as the development on the field, practice related, like, we didn't do anything like that. You know, we hit in the cage, and you know, we lived in a house together, so we were doing other things with these kids. like, making sure they're doing their laundry, going shopping, interacting with other guys, like just maybe life development skills. But as it related to the baseball stuff, man, we didn't have too much of an impact on that because of the timing of everything.
Okay, that's fascinating. You literally are teaching these kids how to do laundry, how to cook for themselves, how to grocery shop, how to maintain a budget while they're on the road, really preparing them for college.
Yeah, and some kids were great. Some kids were more grown up than I was.
Right.
In some instances, and it was just kind of what they came from. It's really families. Some families were doing that stuff with their kids, and they were prepared. And some guys weren't. And it's no big deal. It was just we understood that, and we wanted to get different people with around each other, and like you mentioned, teaching them how to cook for themselves, and how to prepare. If we had an 8 a.m. game, like, making sure they're drinking water the night before, like little things like that a lot of kids like had no idea. Like when we told them, or, oh, well, I have to wash my clothes. Like, yeah, like your parents are in Colorado, or, like you got to wake up on your own, get in this car. And, we left kids at the house sometimes because they didn't wake up in time. And that's how it is here. If you don't, wake up on time, the bus leaves for the game. So we were just trying to make sure that we set them up in that aspect.
Now, to piggyback on that, you were telling me before, one thing you got to look for in a travel ball coach, if you've got a good ball player as a kid, is a coach that's going to hold kids accountable. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. I was young, so I know that I wasn't the best at that. When I had first started, I probably let a lot of things kind of slide by the ways, whether it be, arguing with the umpire, or having, not a great attitude about things, or, now that I'm at the Division I level, when I see how it all supposed to look, I kind of circle back sometimes, and, I'm like, well, I should have done this differently. I mean, that's how we all learn. But I think there were things that me and Rossi did really well. And I just think that a lot of the coaches, I wouldn't say a lot of them, some of these coaches, that are coaching travel ball, they do let a lot of things slide. And then it shows up when they get to campus. And I think it's just about making the things that are important, like working hard, like communicating, like being a great teammate, being selfless. All those things, they don't show up in travel ball sometimes because guys show up and they don't know their teammates, and they kind of just play for a ranking or, a number. And that kind of, gets escaped sometimes. But there are awesome coaches and awesome organizations that do a great job. And some of them are big names, some of them aren't. And it's kind of just depending on the person and the place and the organization. But a lot of great coaches, and, there's a lot of bad ones. And, that's life, that's
Right.
in everything.
Right. Now, Ben, he was talking about how there's not a lot of time for working on fundamentals when you're traveling. And we talked last week with two high school coaches to talk about how they only have 2 hours a day to work on stuff. So they're doing a lot of team stuff and not as much fundamentals. So where these guys are finding fundamentals are with people like you, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the reason I have this facility, for guys to come in and get extra work, because there's so many, ground balls that you're going to get in practice, so many bullpens you're going to throw. So, with having a facility, it kind of offsets a lot of that, when people come in and get one-on-one training, and kind of set themselves up. So, like you say, you have to fail in order to succeed in this game. And this is where you learn how to fail, in a facility like this, is because you learn how to make adjustments. And, when you're playing at a high level, then, you're gonna fail, but you have to learn how to make adjustments, right then and there. So, that's why it's important to for parents to make sure that their kids are getting the necessary training that's needed in this game to be able to play for a guy like Pete, or any other high level college. So, yes, it's important.
All right. Pete, we're going to wrap up. I want to talk to you a little bit because what do you think are some of the keys to your success in the way you've kind of risen through the ranks?
Wow, that's a tough one. I would just say, as far as the recruiting side of things, it is like what you mentioned, and it is talking to guys like Ben, whether it be a guy that's just training guys, or whether it is a high school coach that's seeing these guys on a daily basis. Whether it be just in passing through class and then at the baseball field, or whether it be the travel ball coach that's they're living with or playing with every day, and it's a bunch of different people, is what I would say. So just making sure we're checking off all the boxes, talking to everyone we can. I think that's that's what gets you at least the player the most about, is talking to everyone you can, and everyone is important in that stuff. Whether it be the guy that's training him, or the guy that's seeing him in class, or the guy that's he's living with in the summer, and just finding out the most you can. So I would just say, man, using the network, and just trying to do a good job, just trying to do right by the kids, do right by the program or the team that I'm with. But if you always have doing right by the player in mind, I think it all works out, because not every place is a good fit for a kid, and not every team is a good fit, or not every like everyone's different. And so just trying to keep the best interest of the kid in mind, and the program, I think is probably just the best thing I live by.
You want to know what I see when I've talked to you and when I read your bio and what I think about? Just I'm gonna throw it out there to you, okay?
Sure.
I see a guy that's self-aware. I see a guy that made a decision early on. Hey, I could go play at a small college, but I got other goals. I'm gonna go ahead and get on those goals right now. I see a guy that accepts challenges. Every time somebody's offered you a chance to move up, you didn't get scared, you didn't run from it, you took it, from what I can see. I see a guy that's energetic, and I see a guy that has to be organized the way you do things. Am I close?
Yeah, no doubt. I hope so.
Hey,
I hope so.
hey, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, I see a general manager of a big league club one day.
Yeah. You got a lot of energy, don't you, Pete?
I try. I drink coffee every day, but
Right.
no, I just love it, man. I just love it. So I think anytime you're doing something you love, man, you got to have energy and passion for it. I mean, that's just keeping it a buck. So
Right, Ben. I mean, you love what you do too, right?
I love it, man.
Right.
It's not a job. It's not a job, man. It's something that I wake up and go to sleep, thinking about. So
Right.
it's cool. Yeah.
Man, I think that's a great place to end this. Pete, thank you so much for your time.
hey, thank you guys, man. Thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Just blessed to talk with you guys this morning, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And appreciate you guys for having me on the show, man.
Yeah, happy beginning of MLB too.
Oh yeah, I'm a Marlins fan though, so I'm kind of hiding for right now. We're off to a rough start.
Things could be worse. You could be a Mets fan.
Yeah, well, I think they've won a game, but there's 162, so we got time.
Right, a lot of time left. Ben, appreciate you, buddy. Hey, folks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, hang in there, because we're about to run a little message for you at the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and hang in there for the message coming up after this. First of all, thank you very much for watching this episode. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Arden's Garden, Atlanta's source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods, and Towns, Davis & Associates, LLC, earning millions fighting for justice for you. But Showcase Apparel, who is also a sponsor of this show, obviously that is connected to Georgia Showcase Baseball, is going to be offering a deal for you if you like, subscribe, and comment on these episodes. Ben, what are we going to do for folks?
Well, Kevin, for those that are subscribers, we're going to offer them a free T-shirt, courtesy of Showcase Apparel, and that T-shirt will be the representation of your organization. If you have a travel team that you're connected with, we're going to make a customized T-shirt in your size for you. whatever team that you're representing, we're gonna make we're gonna have a free T-shirt for you guys. So the way that you're gonna get the T-shirt is you're gonna comment in the section, and we're gonna choose which comment that we prefer, and we will get the T-shirt to you by DM. You have to go into my direct message on showcase_baseball_GA, and we will get your information and we'll get the T-shirt shipped out to you.
Awesome. All you got to do is like, subscribe, comment. We'll pick a random person every episode. Send them a shirt.